So while the first film reminded us that sometimes family can be crazy, this new one reminds us that we should keep track of our emergency contacts. So Ready or Not 2, also known as Ready or Not Here I Come, is the direct follow-up to the surprise hit from 2019, Ready or Not. And when I tell you my excitement was through the roof for this film, that is an understatement. I actually made a video a few weeks back that was about 4 things I felt the movie needed to do to succeed and be a worthy follow-up. So the question is, did the boys at Radio Silence deliver a worthy follow-up to that first surprise hit? And I would say, hell yeah, they did. This movie was an absolute blast. Now, with this being a direct sequel to a film that seemingly had a definitive ending, Ready or Not Here I Come did have big shoes to fill in terms of really justifying its existence. This is often somewhat of a handicap that I feel most films in this position have. And with that being said, the film truly does go all out with the devil worship, culty aspect that the first film introduced, this time expanding the lore and giving us a brand new cast that's led by Samara Weaving, who's just so easily slips right back into her role as Grace, which I feel after this movie is kind of like her iconic role. This time she's joined by Kathryn Newton as her sister Faith, along with horror royalty Sarah Michelle Gellar. And you have Sean Hattasy and Elijah Wood also joining. That was a little faculty reunion, which if you get nothing else out of this review, go check out The Faculty. It's one of the best movies from the late 90s. Trust me. Now, I have to say one of the biggest standouts was Kathryn Newton's addition to the cast as her sister Faith. I felt that her and Samara Weaving had extremely well put together chemistry, and I really bought in to them being sisters that deep down care about each other, but are still struggling to get past the differences that have led to their estranged relationship with one another. And of course, Radio Silence brought back the blood and gore, just amping it up from the first one. And this time it's much more satisfying because now we are dealing with even more elitist characters that are just downright horrible people. So you can't help but smile and chuckle every time they get theirs throughout the film. And I actually felt this one was a lot funnier than the first one. I mean, the first one had plenty of humor as it was, but this one seemingly was a lot more self-aware. And I think that had something to do with the fact that they took what ended up being kind of a batshit crazy premise in the first movie and had the task of amplifying that in this one. And the kind of almost borderline meta aspect to it was a very welcomed aspect, at least for me personally, because I love when horror comedy movies kind of do that. Now, with that in mind, with the kind of sequel that this is, the stakes are higher, meaning that there was more tension throughout the film. However, there were certain points where I felt like that tension was interrupted, specifically by scenes of exposition. There was probably 2 or 3 times in the movie where Grace and Faith, who's Samara Weaving and Kathryn Newton, would be running from their lives from one of these new characters trying to murder them, and they would end up in a room or some aspect or some different part of this like resort that the movie takes place in, and they would just stop and talk about the relationship with one another and just kind of feed us different details that make us go, oh, so this is why they don't like each other. However, the timing of those exposition dumps kind of just like didn't completely ruin the tension. I think if their chemistry wasn't so well put together, it would have really taken me out. But it was definitely something that I felt probably should have been executed at more appropriate times.
You're telling me you didn't know your fiance was in a devil cult? Listen, if you don't do exactly what I say, we are going to die.
The utilization of the cast overall was pretty well done. There were a few characters that were played by more well-known actors in the film that were killed off pretty quickly, so I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of getting them was. I'm going to go ahead and chalk it up to radio silence. Just thought it would be fun to have some, recognizable faces in the film. Ultimately, though, I really don't have any bad things to say about this movie. If you were a fan of the first one, I don't see you disliking this one. I mean, I can see people maybe not liking it as much as the first, but for me, I liked it pretty much on par, and I'm very much excited to do a double feature, just watch these two back to back and have this like 3.5 hour just explosive, just bombastic thrill ride. And I'm probably going to catch some shit for saying this because I'm not exactly sure if it's comparing apples to oranges. But the fun I had with this movie was the fun I wish I had when I went to go see Scream 7. So I encourage people to go watch this with an audience and just kick back and enjoy one hell of a good time. Sure, there's some bumps in the road with this film, but nothing that I felt was particularly egregious or needed to be singled out for any kind of real harsh criticism. This was a movie that overall knew what it was, but still I felt satisfied the expectations that I had to, again, be a worthy follow-up to the surprise hit from 2019. But besides all that, guys, thanks so much for hanging. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. Gonna have fun talking about a lot more movies coming up. And with that in mind, let us know in the comments. Did you go see this movie already? If so, did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you a fan of the first one? Is this the first time you're hearing about Ready or Not? Because if so, you need to go check it out right now. Let us know. And until then, I'll see you guys all in the next one.